Have you always had a burning desire to do something in the back of your mind, or you talk about it a lot, or you have that feeling, or, you know, something along those lines? You've got that gut feeling like I always talk about in this channel, or you've always had the thought that I'm supposed to do this. Hello, everybody. My name is Ryan. This is Ryan Talks. And today I actually wanted to talk about last Sunday. Now, normally I've been trying to post on Sundays. I went to the Cleveland Orchestra last week, and I really didn't get a chance to film a video. But I'm glad I went, A, because it was amazing, and B, because it reminded me of something. So these people who play these instruments, most of them, I believe, do it full time. And maybe not all of them, but a lot of them do it full time, and it got me to thinking about something. So these people have dedicated their lives to playing an instrument, one instrument, with just a single thing. Because the only really thing that we can do good is just like one really good thing, right? You can have a bunch of hobbies. You can have 30, 40, 50 hobbies, however many hobbies you want. But you can only really, truly be good at a few things. Like, we are not a computer, right? You can't, and you can, it's got a bad graphic card. It just can't handle it, today's video games, right? You can just pop a new video card in, or we aren't that way, right? Or like a car, like another example is a car, you've got a car that's only 200 horsepower, right? But you can plug and play and do different things to this car. You can get to 400 horsepower, but you're not built like that. It would take it, like if there was an example of like like running or cycling, or especially running, it's going to take you a long time to go from 200 horsepower to 400 horsepower relative to human ability. And so we are only good at certain things. And I read some book, Power of, I forget the name of the book, but he talked about the fact that it might take you 5 to 10 to 15 years to actually really be extremely good at what you're doing. So if it's 10 to 15, 5 to 10, 15, whatever years that it takes you to really be good at what you're doing, you can only do that so many times in a lifetime, because we only last, let's say, 100 years. Most people don't even make it that long. So pick it what it is. I hope most people are watching this when they're young, or maybe they're at a point in their life that they can switch something or something. I think we're always at that point, but most people can't mentally do it. What is it that you've always wanted to do? Like for me, there's a couple things that I've always wanted to do. I always wanted to work in the video game industry. I didn't really enjoy a lot of the back end of that, so I went to school for it. I didn't really jive with that. But another thing that I've always wanted to do, and I always told the people, like counselors and stuff, like they're like, oh, what do you want to do with your life? I'm always like, I just want to talk in a microphone. I just want to talk in a microphone, or in front of a camera, or run a camera or something. And I did that. I actually did run a photography studio for a really long time, and I really liked doing it. But I just wanted to kind of move on from that. And I'm like, you know what? I love doing this, but my foot just isn't allowing me to do this anymore. And I went and actually sold insurance, which I was really good at, because I would spin it different ways, you know. I would make the insurance work for these people in different ways that most people don't think about. And so I had a lot of good sales there. But I kind of moved on from that, so now I went to banking. But anyway, the point of the story is I've always wanted to do this. And had I listened to myself about doing this on YouTube back in 2008, 2009 or something like that, I'd have an enormous channel. Not my other channel. My other channel where I talk about food and where I talk about, health and lifestyle. It would have been enormous. It would be a huge channel, but now it's a harder to do that, right? It's a huge saturated field. I'm not saying it's impossible. I don't believe it's impossible at all, but I talk about being vegan, and it's a lot harder to do that these days because keto and carnivore are being pushed so hard. But back in the day, it was a lot easier to do that. So I'm not saying that I've, screwed myself, but had I done that, had I listened to myself, and this is the point of the video, had I actually listened to myself and done this 13 years ago, 12, 13 years ago, I would be doing what I wanted to do every single day. Like now I've got to go out and do DoorDash and stuff like that. And I'm glad to do it. You know, I'm glad it exists because it keeps a roof over my head and food on the table. But it's just, I know in my mind, in my heart, in my gut, that this is what I wanted to do, and I'm doing it now, and I'm glad that I'm doing it now. But I don't want anybody, like if you're watching this and you're 15 or 17 or 18, and you made it this far, because everybody's got these crazy short attention spans, but if you got this far, you really got to think to yourself, do I want to go to these mundane jobs or whatever for the rest of my life? And the answer should be no. But the one thing that they don't teach in school, well, it doesn't seem like they teach much of anything in school anymore, but when I was going to school, the one thing that they never taught in school was how to follow your dreams, how to actually make a living, how to, think for yourself, how to do any of this stuff, right? They basically just teach you how to plug into the system, be an employee, don't question anything, just do this, go to work, come home, drink, watch TV, go to bed, maybe have sex every other month, because, maybe you should repopulate. And just keep doing this and doing this and doing this. But you only got to do it for 30, 35 years. Then you can retire. But then we want you doing this, and this. And this is how they teach you. This is, it's a 12-step program, 12 grades in America. Anyway, other countries are different. But here in America, it's 12 grades of just, because it's weird. It's really weird. Like if you go preschool or kindergarten, those people are teaching you how to color, how to do this, how to actually be creative in your world. But then once you go to first grade, they stop it. They cut it off. You cannot talk about this stuff anymore whatsoever. You just start being molded into what they want you to be molded into. And it's ironic because if you watch the people, anybody who's driven is going to be driven no matter what. But if you watch the people who are driven, who didn't finish school, who maybe dropped out in 8th grade or 7th grade or 5th grade, those are usually really successful people. Really, really successful people. I actually know a lot of successful, like I'm talking just very, very successful people who didn't finish school. And I think it's a benefit almost. Now, I'm not telling people not to finish school because a lot of people's dreams might require that they go to university or college. But be focused on that dream of yours. Don't focus on some of the other stuff that they're teaching you. So some of this might actually require that you go, like if you really want to be a doctor, like for me, I would have been a foot doctor or a chiropractor or something like that. Especially a foot doctor, because I've always had bad feet and I don't really appreciate the way they do foot care, right? So I would have liked to have gone into it and to fix that. But now, I'm not as jived into it. I'd rather just talk to people and help people go in the directions that they need to go to get where they want to be, whether it be diet, whether it be, the rest of it, right? The rest of it's, I think, just as important as diet, because if you've got a great diet, but you hate your job, you hate everything, you hate this, you have no appreciation, right? But first, before you can really switch anything, I 100% know that you've got to have an appreciation for it. Right? You have to have an appreciation for everything that you've got or done to yourself or have been in this situation in your life. You have to be appreciative of it, no matter how bad it was, because you created it. You didn't have to listen to these people in 1st through 12th grade or whatever grade that you went to. You didn't have to listen to these people. You did not have to do that, but you did. Right? You didn't have to go the way that you did, but you did. So be thankful that you did. Be thankful that you at least tried it out, and know that you don't want to do that anymore, and that you want to go into a different direction, because you can't hate something or despise something in the background and actually move forward. I just don't think that it's possible. A lot of people try to, but you have to come to grips with some stuff before you can move on to other things. It just is the way it is. It's just the way of how things work. You have to have a certain energy level to attract a new energy level, or the same energy level. So if you're constantly in the back of your mind hating everything, or angry about everything. You are living on that level. You're living in that you're living in that energy, because we vibrate at a certain energy. Like Jesus vibrated at 1,000. That's the highest level that a human can vibrate at. The world was his oyster, essentially. Maybe a bad term, but the world was his, right? He could do anything that he wanted to, but he chose to be a peaceful being. Gandhi, again, high level, peaceful being. Buddha, high level, peaceful being. These people realize, you realize the higher levels that you get, that love is the ultimate energy level. You can't get higher than that. You can become more and more enlightened after you reach that level, but you can't get higher than that level, in my mind. And, you know, if you watch what these people exuded, it was just love, right? I had that. Matter of fact, I know that feeling because I got to that point with my cat. She was really sick, and I got to that point with her where I was just taking care of her, and she had bathroom issues, she had different issues, and I stopped caring about that. I realized that she was having a really hard time, and that she just needed help, or she just needed me to be there for her. And I think once I finally came to that, unfortunately, she did pass away. Once I finally got to that level of unconditional love, the next day she passed away. It's unfortunate, but she did teach me a lesson, and she was very sick, and she had to, she just couldn't do it anymore. But so, I saw that in myself, and I know that level is just, it's so creative. You can create anything in that level. And I think that you don't have to get to that level. I know you don't have to get to that level to get to where you want to be, but you have to raise your level of energy, your vibrational patterning to a level that you want to be at. So you can't hold on to yesterday's baggage. You can't hold on to everything. Now, we all do, right? But you got to let it go to some capacity, if not 100%, in order to move on. I just turn the camera on, and whatever comes out, comes out. I don't know where this comes from. So this is whatever wants you to hear this is telling you that you have to let go of everything, because we hold on to a lot. And then you can actually move on and do the thing that you've been thinking about your whole life. You can move on, and like if you've always wanted to do video game, you always wanted to be an artist, let's say an artist, you can just move on and do that and stop making these excuses. Well, nobody makes it in art, or blah, 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 or blah, blah, blah. You can just go do it. And it'll just, everything, all the doors are open. I noticed this with myself when I opened the photography studio. I had those doubts in the back of my mind, but I didn't really pay attention to them, and doors just opened and opened and opened. And matter of fact, as I was closing it, the doors were opening so heavy that I really almost am irritated at myself for even closing it. But my foot, my back, my hips, my knees, they just couldn't do it anymore. They just couldn't. I had to realize that they just couldn't do it anymore, and I had to move on. And sometimes you might have to move on. You might not be doing X forever. You might not be an artist forever. You might move on to something else. But at least you did what you wanted to do in the meantime, instead of going to a job that you hate. Instead of because when you go to a job that you hate, you carry the energy around with you, talk about it all the time. Like, oh, I can't stand this place. Blah, I hate this place. And it's just, it goes on and on and on and on. And so anyways, the point of this video is, if you have something that you've always wanted to do, like these people that at this orchestra, it was clear to me. Watching these people, their mannerisms, they all had smiles on their face. They all were really good at what they did. But they weren't born that way. They were not born that way. Like athletics, a lot of athletics is you were born that way. There's no way, if you're not born that way, that you're getting to this level. Like, the jump test that they do with athletics. You can't just make your muscles that explosive. You are born with that. But with other things, you can practice your way up to whatever level you want to be, but you've got to be diligent about it. You've got to be focused on one thing. And the one thing that I would not do, and one thing that I'm going to send you off with this video, is don't talk about this with anybody else. Just do the thing until it's what you do, and then people will ask you about it, and then you can talk about it. I didn't talk about my photography studio. I didn't talk about my sales. I didn't talk about any of this other stuff, right? I just went and did it. I was good at it. and then people ask me questions about it, and then I can talk about it. But don't talk about it in the beginning, because you will bring that energy down and you won't be able to attract it. Just do the thing, and then people will come to you. Anyways, that is the end of the video. Leave any comments, questions down below like always. Like, subscribe, and I'll talk to you in the next video.